Did you know that the largest pyramid in the world is not in Egypt? As a matter of fact, it's just outside of Mexico City, in a smaller city called Cholula. Leaving Mexico City, it would take us a little over 2 hours to get to Cholula, and we hired our friend Eric to give us a ride. And this was good since I had time to practice my Spanish with Eric over the course of the ride. So who built the Great Pyramid of Cholula? Well, that's a good question. Whoever began the construction started somewhere around the time of the 3rd century BC. Some say the pyramid had construction phases that continued for over 1,000 years, and at the time, the ancient city of Cholula had the second largest population in Mexico of around 100,000 people. Teotihuacan had the largest population at the time. By the time the Spanish came across the pyramid, it had been long abandoned and was overgrown. In 1594, the Spanish built a church on top of the pyramid. Pretty obvious that Spanish figured by putting a church on top of the sacred temple, then the local gods would be squashed. And since the church is now a designated monument, the pyramid has never been excavated and restored. However, there are 5 miles of tunnels inside the pyramid that have been excavated by archaeologists, but sadly, those tunnels are closed to the general public. Hello, D-Rock here. Please join us as we have a look at the world's largest pyramid, built 2,000 years ago, the Great Pyramid of Cholula. All right, so we're in Cholula now, the city of Cholula. We're gonna chill for a minute and get some tacos, right, Jim? But just in front of me is the Pyramid of Cholula. So I'm not sure if the camera's really picking it up, but there's a church sitting on top of a giant pyramid right here. And that is the largest pyramid in the world, in case you did not know. So we are going there after we have tacos. Okay, just in case you're wondering, what we have here is tacos de arrachera. How are they?
Amazing.
Yeah? Okay. So we're gonna kill these, and then it's time to check out some more awesome. So we're making our way to the pyramid now, and navigating these streets is interesting, but simply in front of us is just a giant mound with the big church on it, and the pyramid hasn't been excavated like the ones at Teotihuacan. So, however, what's interesting is there's 5 miles of tunnels underneath this pyramid. So as we get closer, of course, the view's going to get better. But so looking at this is a massive pyramid, and on top, as I've said, is the church. And it's the largest pyramid in the world, not by height, but by volume. It's incredible. So we're making our way up, and what you're seeing right here is, this is some of the pyramid that's been excavated, and it just goes all the way up to the top with the church on it. And from what I understand, the reason why all this isn't excavated is because there's a church on top from the colonial time, 1600s, so it's a historic landmark that may be stopping some of excavation. I'm not entirely sure. Like I've mentioned, I'm not a professional historian, but nonetheless, this is pretty impressive. And we'll see more of this once we get a little higher up. So what I'm standing on now is the actual pyramid. It starts down here, goes up, continues up, and there's a giant church on the top. This thing is huge. It's absolutely immense. Yeah. Man, wow. So there's a little bit of signage up at the top here, and the church was started in late 1500s and finished by 1666, I believe. And the materials used to build the church were taken from the pyramid. So you can imagine from the top of the pyramid, here's a view of Cholula. That's some view, eh, Jen? And the volcano, of course, really sets the scene. So once again, if you can think back out of your modern mind and try to imagine what this looked like 2,000 years ago, that would have to be extremely impressive. All right, we're gonna see if we can get in the church, and then we're gonna go down and walk at the base of the ruins at the bottom, since you can't really get inside the pyramid, so to speak. So after the hot walk up the pyramid and then the tour through the church, we got a small gift shop up here where you can get a popsicle and some agua. Muy bien. All right, we're heading back down, and we're gonna go check out the ruins at the bottom that we showed at the beginning. So imagine, if you will, however long this ago this pyramid was built, 2,000 years ago, let's just say that. I'm not exactly sure precisely, but at that time, this was the largest structure, man-made structure in the New World, dare I say the entire world. Think about that for a minute. And then think about that view, that volcano right in front of us. How absolutely cool is all of it? Okay, we've come down, now we're looking at the, I guess, base of the pyramid here, but there's some signage down here, and it's really interesting. Apparently, people first came here 2,500 years ago, and through the times, different cultures passed through the area, Olmecs, Toltecs, all of them building. But one particular note is in 1519, the conquistadors came through here and, according to the signage, slaughtered thousands of people in the city around this. So if you didn't actually see the excavated sections here, you'd have no idea there was a pyramid here at all. It's that overgrown. So if you head farther down south into Mexico into the jungles, you can only imagine what's underneath all of that hasn't been seen yet. So as I mentioned, different cultures passed through here, and what I just read regarding this pit, this is an altar, and they seem to think that it was the Mexica or Aztec that built this because of the remains left behind, which were human remains, children actually, and pottery in there and underneath it. So you know, you've got a variety of peoples occupying this area, from the Olmecs, Toltecs, Aztecs, and eventually the Spanish. It's very, very interesting. So there's a really interesting sign right here, and it's extremely interesting. So I'm just going to read it real quick, and it just says Cholula had two major periods of development. The first period of development of Cholula occurred between the years 0 and 850 AD. This period, Cholula established a commercial alliance with Teotihuacan in order to control the trade route of obsidian and pottery. That's interesting. And then Teotihuacan fell, and Cholula, the Temple of Cholula, also lost its economic importance. However, and it says in the second period of development occurred between 850 and 1519, just prior, the Spanish arrival, and there's different groups from the north, Guatemala, Yucatan, Gulf of Mexico, and also at that time this had an alliance with the Mexica or Aztecs, helping them control their domains in the southeast territories of Mesoamerica. Anyway, I hope I dictated that correctly, but it lends some very interesting times to this area. A couple things to wrap this up. Directly in front of me is an altar that is believed to be used to sacrifice children to appease the god Tlaloc in hopes of bringing water. So it was believed that when children were sacrificed, they would go ask the god Tlaloc to bring water for everyone. And the reason they believe children were sacrificed here is because they found remains at this altar. So think about that for a minute. And as a wrap, by the time the Spanish arrived here, the Great Pyramid here was, as pretty much you can see now, it's covered in earth. So they had no idea what was underneath. Once they finally realized what was underneath, that is when they decided to build the church on top as, to squash the ancient gods, if you will. So there you have it, the Great Temple of Cholula. Incredible. And that's a wrap, folks. So we're gonna head back to Mexico City. As always, thank you very much for watching. Got lots more content on the way. If you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It helps us out tremendously. We'll see you next time. D-Rock out. Adios.